Thank you. What a group. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is a warm welcome indeed. It's great to rendezvous with you in Texas. It's a great state, no doubt about it. And Francisco, thank you for your leadership with D.A.R.E. and all you do to help prevent the spread of drug addiction in this country. The D.A.R.E. team is ready to meet this new challenge, no doubt about it, just like you did in the 80s and 90s, and I remember it well too. Nobody here remembers it. I've added 10 grandchildren since those days, but things were out of control. People were excusing drug abuse, and nothing should be done about it. And prison is bad, and Nancy Reagan tried to say, "Don't just say no." They mocked her, and that this is ridiculous. But the truth was, we needed to start talking about the dangers of drug abuse, and it's even worse today. This danger and the deaths that we are seeing is unprecedented in the history of the Republic. It's become an epidemic today, and it's taking an unprecedented number of American lives. For those Americans under the age of 50, drug abuse is now the leading cause of death in this country. In 2015, more than 52,000 Americans lost their lives to drug overdose, 1,000 every week. More died of drug overdose in 2015 than died from car crashes or died at the height of the AIDS epidemic. And numbers we have for 2016 show another increase, a big increase. Based on preliminary data, 2016, it appears that we've lost over 60,000 lives to drug overdose. That's unprecedented in our country. It'll be the highest death toll and the fastest increase in a death toll in American history. And every day, more than 5,000 Americans take painkillers for the first time. The epidemic is growing. It's only going to get worse, it does appear, unless we take action. It's being driven primarily by opioids, as you know, prescription drugs, heroin, and synthetic drugs like fentanyl. Last year, there were 1.3 million hospital visits in the United States because of those drugs. And according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, heroin use has doubled in the last decade, in 10 years, from those 18 to 25 years of age. Meanwhile, drug dealers are lacing heroin and cocaine with fentanyl, a drug 30 to 50 times more powerful than heroin. As a result, the drugs on the street are now more powerful, more addictive, and more dangerous than ever. Even marijuana THC content is up several times. And they're not just dangerous for users. Even being accidentally exposed to just a few grams of fentanyl can kill a police officer or paramedic, as I know most of you well understand. So now, this is not the country's first drug abuse crisis. In the 1980s, we confronted, when I was United States Attorney, skyrocketing drug abuse rates across the country, but the nation rose to the occasion, and we successfully reversed those trends, and it can be done again. In 1980, half our high school seniors admitted they had used an illegal drug sometimes that year. But through enforcing our laws, good law enforcement, and by developing effective prevention programs, we were steadily able to bring that rate down. But it took years. It didn't happen overnight. And that's why I'm so pained. It hurts me so badly to see the trends we're on today. They've got to be reversed. You were at the beginning of this fight. In 1983, when D.A.R.E. was founded in Los Angeles, D.A.R.E. became fundamental to our success by educating children to the dangers of drug use. I firmly believe that your work saved lives, Francisco. No doubt about it. It helped turn the tide. And I want to say thank you for that. And whenever I ask adults around the age 30 about prevention programs and what they remember the D.A.R.E program. They consistently do. I just left the United States Attorney's Office, and there was 100 or so, a lot of around 30-year-old prosecutors. Who remembers the D.A.R.E program? The hands went up around the room. So now some people today say that the solution to the problem of drug abuse is to be more accepting of the problem. You know, just kind of live with it. Don't talk about it. Don't do anything. They say marijuana use can prevent addiction. You've heard them say that. Unbelievable. They say the answer is always treatment. Only treatment do they suggest. They say don't talk about enforcement. Gosh, we can't have prosecutions. They say don't say no to me. Don't tell me what I can't do. So that's the kind of mentality. But I'm going to tell you, that was a mentality in the late 1970s and early 1980s too. To me, that just doesn't make sense, though. In fact, thank you. In fact, I would argue that one reason we're in such a crisis today, right now, is that we have subscribed to this mistaken idea that drug abuse is not a threat to us. And it's not just a choice, it's a destructive behavior. Ignoring the problem or the seriousness of the problem won't make it go away. Prevention, through educating people about the danger that's involved, is ultimately how we're going to end the drug problem and for the long term. I'm convinced of that. Treatment is important, but treatment often comes too late, doesn't it? By then, people have already suffered the effects of drugs. Then their struggle to overcome addiction has become a long and painful process, and it can often fail. It often does fail. I bet many of you have seen families destroy their entire savings trying to help an addicted child beat the addiction and see that effort fail. When fewer people start drugs, fewer people will become addicted. Ultimately, that's prevention. Look, this is a law enforcement community. We are going to work hard together in partnership to crack down on drug distributors, drug dealers who are out there pushing drugs and destroying lives. But jail is not our goal. That's not what we want. What we want to see is drug use go down. We want to see fewer lives destroyed. We want to see more children graduate from college, not drop out of college. We want to see families. We want to see families strengthened, not broken apart and destroyed, and children traumatized by a parent who's addicted. So I just would say to you, I fully understand the importance of what you're doing. I fully support it. I support you. The President supports you. And we're determined to see if we can't make a big difference in America today. And I believe that we can. So there are three. There are three basic legs on the stool to deal with a drug crisis. One is law enforcement, one is prevention, and one is treatment. I just would say this to you. Law enforcement, and I want to talk a little bit about that too right now. Law enforcement is prevention. It's a part of prevention. And we at the Department of Justice are going to work harder than ever to keep drugs out of our country, to reduce their availability, to reduce their price, and to increase their price, and to reduce the purity and addictiveness of the drugs that are on our streets. That's a law enforcement function. We do have a role to play in this matter. Don't let anybody tell you different. And when you're talking to young people and other people, I would caution that you not say, not say that law enforcement is not the answer or won't work. Law enforcement is a part of the answer. It's part of creating a climate of hostility to drug use in America. It's part of creating a circumstance in which young people see that their culture, their very communities themselves, are united in opposition to this. And it also hammers these arrogant drug dealers and people who are making a fortune off misery of people. It creates a certain justice system, too, for that. So we know also that drug trafficking is an inherently violent business. If you want to collect a drug debt, you can't file a lawsuit in court. You collect it by the barrel of a gun. That's the way it's done. There's no doubt that violence tends to rise with increased drug dealing. Law enforcement plays a critical role in making our communities safe, and drug abuse is a threat to safety in our communities. We had in the previous administration some policies that were directed to our U.S. attorneys that I just visited with earlier today. And it directed them not to charge the most serious offenses that would carry certain minimum sentences, mandatory sentences. Prosecutors were required to leave out true facts in order to achieve sentences lighter than those sentences required by law. This was billed as an effort to curb mass incarceration. What was the result? Well, it's not gone well, in my opinion, and a lot of our policies throughout the country have misinterpreted the challenge we face. Sentences went down, but crime has gone up. Sentences for federal drug crimes dropped by 18% from 2009 to 2016. Violent crime, which had been decreasing basically for 30 years, suddenly started up again. In 2015, we had an increase of 10.8% in murders. 2 years after this policy change, the United States suffered the largest single increase in overall violent crime since 1991. In May, after study and discussion with criminal justice experts, I issued a new memorandum for the Department of Justice regarding charging and sentencing policy that said we were going to trust our prosecutors again, allow them to honestly charge the offenses that as Congress intended. And this simple, two-page guidance instructs them to apply the laws on the books to the facts of the case and allows them to exercise their discretion where a strict application of the law would result in an injustice. Instead of barring prosecutors from faithfully enforcing the law, this policy empowers and trusted professionals to apply the law fairly and exercise discretion when appropriate. That's the way good in law enforcement has always worked, and that's what we're going to do now. But you know, it's not our privileged communities that suffer the most from crime, drugs, and violence. Minority communities are disproportionately impacted by violent drug trafficking and addiction. Poor neighborhoods are too often ignored in these conversations. Regardless of their level of wealth or race, every American has the right to live in a safe neighborhood. Those of us who are responsible for promoting public safety cannot sit back while any American community is ravaged by crime and violence at the hands of drug traffickers. We can never yield sovereignty, not ever yield sovereignty over a single neighborhood, a single city block, or a street corner to drug traffickers. Also, under President Trump's strong leadership, this country is finally getting serious about securing the southern border. Most of the heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine and fentanyl in this country got here across the border by powerful cartels across the Mexican border. According to the National Institute of Drug Abuse, Mexican heroin production alone increased sixfold in 4 years. From 2005 to 2009, there were 50 metric tons sent into the United States. That number is now 70 million tons. And it has just kept rising. According to the Office of National Drug Control Policy, Mexican opium poppy, the heroin source, plantings increased by 64% from just 2014 to 2015. It's a remarkable increase. As a result, over the last decade, we've seen sharp increases in purity of our drugs and accessibility to heroin. We've also seen steep decreases in drug prices on our streets. But this country has paid an increasingly high price for this drug abuse. We have paid for it in broken relationships, broken lives, death rates, the likes of which we've never seen before. This is why it's important to protect our country from drugs and crime by securing our border and having a lawful system of immigration in this country. It's why I've urged cities and other jurisdictions to cooperate with federal authorities and turn over criminal aliens for deportation, which is what 80% of the American people want us to do. And I'm proud of Texas, too, for the action they've taken recently. That will help ensure the kind of partnership between federal and state law enforcement agencies that are so critical to success. Violent transnational gangs like MS-13 take advantage of cities and states that shelter them in order to smuggle in drugs, recruit school children to join, and pillage and plunder whole communities. The Department of Justice is working with our powerful state and local enforcement partners, you, to fight back against these cartels, drug traffickers, and gangs like MS-13. I firmly believe that our law enforcement efforts are an essential part of our nation's work to prevent drug abuse, addiction, and to save lives. The department is also holding drug manufacturers accountable for their actions. I am announcing today that the department has reached a $35 million settlement with Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals for failing to notify the DEA of suspicious drug orders in large numbers. These failures resulted in millions of OxyContin pills being sold on our streets. As a result of the hard work of DOJ attorneys and law enforcement, the company has agreed to do everything it can to help us identify suspicious orders in the future. And we've sent a clear message to the drug companies. This Department of Justice will hold you accountable for such illegal activities. I believe that will prevent drug abuse, prevent new addictions from starting, and save lives. For too many, opioids are being prescribed today. Far too many are being prescribed today. I believe this country is just simply moving too many prescription pills throughout our country. And every doctor, and hospital and dentist and other group that have the ability to move prescribed drugs need to review what they're doing. Is 68 dilaudid necessary? Can we get by with 10 and have people come back if they need more? I think we are making some big mistakes here. We are creating addiction, as DEA says, that leads people to heroin later when they can no longer get the prescription opioids. At the Department of Justice, we're going to increase our work with our local and state allies to stop these drug traffickers. We will track them down. They will be given no quarter. We will work together every day to keep the American people safe. But we need you. We really need D.A.R.E. To prevent new victims from being produced. We need your strong leadership to deny the drug dealers new customers, to help more and more Americans, especially young people with bright futures ahead of them, to reject drug abuse. Experience has shown, sadly, that it's not enough that dangerous drugs are illegal. We also have to make them unacceptable in our communities. We need to create a culture and a climate that is hostile to drug use. In recent years, government officials were sending mixed messages about drugs. I could feel it. I don't know if those of you who've been around, did you hear some of these comments? Members of Congress and leadership in our country say things about drugs that are just shocking to me. I knew that this was not good messaging. It was undermining what we spent 30 years trying to create, a climate that honestly and properly told young people and Americans, stay away from these things. They will destroy you. And it's worse today than the challenge we face is really bad today. D.A.R.E. Is, I think, as I indicated, the best remembered anti-drug program today. In recent years, people have not paid much attention to that message, but they are ready to hear it again. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the work that you're doing and will do. And I'm proud of the individuals in this room that will be going out into schools, giving their time and effort to try to reverse the trends that we're seeing. So our message is, let's stay at this. Let's stay at it. We know it worked before, and we can make it work again. Please continue to let your voices be heard. I promise you that I will let my voice be heard. Our young people must understand that drugs are dangerous, that drugs will destroy their futures, or worse yet, end their lives and their futures. Let's get the truth out there and prevent new addictions and new tragedies. Let's drive the drug dealers out and make all of our communities safer. Thank you for what you do. May God bless America and your efforts. Thank you. Thank you.
Gather up so we can get in a picture here. Attorney General, these are members of our youth advocacy group, high school students from around the country and different nations as well. And on behalf of all the children in the United States, they wish to present you with a plaque in appreciation.
Oh, that's
for joining us
fabulous.
today.
Hey, very good.
Way to get a picture.
Come on, okay. Thank you all. Go get it.